Every case comes with an official explanation, a conclusion, a final report, a version of the truth we're told to accept. But sometimes, when you look closer, the story begins to fall apart. Evidence doesn't match, timelines shift, and key questions remain unanswered. Tonight, we open 5 files where the official story just doesn't add up. Welcome back to the Dark Side Files. Our first file takes us to Los Angeles in 2013. A young student named Elisa Lam was found dead inside a water tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. Authorities quickly ruled it an accidental drowning, a tragic consequence of a mental health episode. But the moment you examine the details, that neat conclusion starts to unravel. The roof she was found on was supposed to be locked and alarmed. How did she get up there undetected? The water tank itself had a heavy lid that would have been incredibly difficult for her to lift, let alone close from the inside. Yet, that's how she was found. For weeks, no one even knew she was missing until hotel guests started complaining about low water pressure and a strange taste. And then there's the infamous elevator footage. This is the last time Elisa was seen alive, and it's bone-chilling. In the video, she seems terrified. She darts in and out of the elevator, frantically pressing buttons, and appears to be hiding from someone or something just out of frame. She gestures and talks, but there's no one there. The police officially closed the case, satisfied with their explanation. But for countless people who have seen that footage and heard the facts, the official story feels incomplete, leaving a void where the truth should be. Next, we travel back to 1959, to the desolate Ural Mountains of Russia. 9 experienced hikers, all students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, set out on a winter expedition. They never returned. When search parties finally found their campsite, the scene was baffling. Their tent was sliced open from the inside, as if they were desperately trying to escape. Their belongings were left behind. The hikers' bodies were found scattered across the snowy landscape, some hundreds of meters from the tent. Most were barefoot and only partially dressed, despite the freezing temperatures. The physical evidence was even more disturbing. Some of the hikers had suffered severe internal injuries, like crushed ribs and fractured skulls, yet they had no external wounds, as if they were hit by an immense, invisible force. One victim, Lyudmila Dubinina, was found missing her tongue. To top it all off, traces of radiation were detected on some of their clothing. The official investigation concluded that the hikers died from an unknown compelling force. Over the years, theories have ranged from an avalanche to secret military weapons tests, and even an encounter with a cryptid like the Yeti. Decades later, Russian authorities reopened the case and once again blamed an avalanche. But this explanation fails to account for the strange injuries, the radiation, and why these seasoned hikers would react in such a panicked, illogical way. The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most profound and disturbing unsolved mysteries in modern history. Our third file centers on a deeply personal and ethical battle that played out in the public eye. Vincent Lambert, a French nurse, was involved in a devastating car accident in 2008 that left him in a persistent vegetative state. For years, he was kept alive through artificial nutrition and hydration. What followed was a heartbreaking and complex legal war that tore his family apart. His wife and several siblings believed he would never have wanted to live this way, and fought for his right to die with dignity. His parents, devout Catholics, fought just as hard to keep him alive, arguing it was their duty to care for him. The official story is that his death in 2019 was the result of a final binding court decision to withdraw care, but calling it a resolved case feels wrong. The battle involved years of conflicting medical opinions about his level of consciousness, dozens of court reversals, and even intervention from the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Was it a humane act of mercy, or was it euthanasia? Who has the right to decide when a life is no longer worth living, especially when the person at the center of it all cannot speak for themselves? The official ruling closed the legal file on Vincent Lambert, but it left the profound ethical questions wide open. Questions that continue to haunt medical and legal systems around the world. Let's turn the clock back to 1948, to a cold Prague morning. Jan Masaryk, the foreign minister of Czechoslovakia, was found dead on the stone pavement beneath his bathroom window. At the time, the country was in the grip of a communist coup. The official ruling came swiftly: suicide. They claimed Masaryk, despondent over the political turmoil, had leaped to his death. But many were skeptical from the start. Masaryk was a popular pro-Western figure who fiercely opposed the communist takeover. He had powerful enemies who wanted him out of the way. Witnesses reported hearing strange noises and seeing unusual activity around his apartment building that night. Forensics at the scene were questionable, with some suggesting the position of his body was inconsistent with a fall. Over the decades, the official story kept changing. After the fall of communism, investigations were reopened. A 2004 police inquiry concluded he was murdered, thrown from the window by assailants. But then, in another twist, a later investigation cast a doubt on that conclusion, pointing to new analysis that suggested a fall was still possible. To this day, Jan Masaryk's death occupies a chilling gray area between suicide and political assassination. The official story has been rewritten so many times that the truth itself seems to have been lost to history. Our final file isn't about a single case, but a disturbing pattern that stretches across the United States. Over the past 2 decades, dozens of college-aged young men have been found drowned in rivers and other bodies of water, often after a night out drinking. In almost every case, local authorities have ruled the deaths as tragic but accidental drownings. They were intoxicated, they fell into the water, and they couldn't get out. A simple, sad story, but a group of retired New York detectives began to notice eerie similarities. The victims were almost always popular, athletic, successful students. They were found in specific clusters, like in the Midwest and the Northeast. And perhaps most chillingly, near the locations where the men disappeared or were found, graffiti of a smiley face was often discovered. This has led to the Smiley Face Killer theory. The idea that these are not accidents, but the work of an organized group of serial killers who target these young men. Law enforcement agencies have consistently and publicly denied this theory. They insist the cases are unrelated and that the smiley faces are mere coincidences. But for the families of the victims, the official explanation is not enough. They ask, how can so many similar deaths in similar circumstances be just a coincidence? The official story says these are dozens of individual tragedies, but the nagging questions and the haunting smiley faces suggest a much darker, hidden narrative. How many coincidences does it take before the official story no longer holds water? Official explanations are meant to provide closure, to put our minds at ease. But as we've seen tonight, when the evidence contradicts the story, when critical questions go unanswered, that closure becomes an illusion. These were 5 files where the truth may still be buried deep beneath the official version of events. And these files, here at the Dark Side Files, will always remain open. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, question everything, because every mystery has a dark side. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation.